Good. Okay. Welcome to Lily Poetry Review Books reading for BOOG City Festival. Thank you so much to David Kirschenbaum and all of the folks at BOOG City who've been running this festival for years and which people so look forward to. We are Lily Poetry Review Books. My name is Eileen Cleary and I'm the editor and publisher of Lily Poetry Review Books, where we publish chapbooks and full-length collections of well-crafted work regardless of aesthetic. And we're very pleased today to be reading for you, and 4 of our 2019 through 2021 authors are here to read from their books. Thank you.
You want to start reading now? All right, my name is Eric Roy. I'm from Houston, Texas. I write mostly poetry and hybrid material, kind of like fiction, prose poetry, hybrid material. And I'm going to read a new poem and then some selections from my chapbook on Lily Press, which is All Small Planes. You can see it there. I couldn't be happier about the chapbook. Lily Press did a wonderful job, and everyone there is wonderful as well. The first poem I'm going to read is new, and it's very quick. I need my glasses. It's called Pentimento. Are you finished or abandoned? The living hand held out for you is notable for what it once was, as well as for what it remains to be. Like a highway that splits in two due to the lost cemetery unearthed during its construction, or city block where the consistency of liquor store, bodega, cell phone company is interrupted by a strange lot, empty as an eye tooth missing, where from darkness emerges unseen perspectives painted over by neglect or time. We too are overpainted as with oils or enamel, and pastel strokes reflecting light of history, family, religion. Humanity's small canvas has been reused to reveal a new coup at every stage, while underneath, old brushstrokes continue running opposite, checkered designs and blemished figures ghost, repentances disclose from transparency with age. And what I'm going to read next is the vignettes from my chapbook, which when you read the chapbook, it's interspersed throughout. But when it was originally published, it was published as a short flash piece. And so I'm going to read it as that right now. And that way, if you were to get the book or read it, you would see kind of the difference in how it works. And that was a suggestion from the editor, Eileen. That's the way we've divided it up, and it worked out wonderfully. But here's how it was originally published. This is an origin story. Born oily in blood, piston violent, we take off like small planes whose only mission is to one day fall and create ash or a minor crater in this earth. So I understand the urge to do it up, and away, until you get so far gone and high, the only place to come back down is on some open stretch of highway. And how, lane opposite, little oncoming cars of us, filled with shock and stun, don't really have a say. I get it. I'm sure I understand. It's the whole world is a gas station pump on fire. It's the planet is a pain pill, hidden safely in darkness of a ballerina box until. I'm not saying anticipation. I'm not saying inevitable. I'm saying you're the world's most delicious dessert, sex in the pan incarnate, and struck by a bolt of freedom lightning, say, or bitten unawares by a radioactive freedom spider and bestowed with the power to eat yourself slowly, oblivious to everything but your own deliciousness. Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't anyone? When I came home, late had become early, snow lighting up everything on the path like moon rocks. Opening the front door, I saw the television still on and guessed you'd crashed on my couch again with some superhero movie going. But the TV was on the live feed of Earth from the International Space Station, and you were sitting up with your head slumped down, holding out your hand, which made me smile. I thought it was the old joke. I mean, really, you had it nailed. You were doing a near perfect impression of the time when we were little, when Mom had just yanked you like a guttering kite back to Eckerd's, stood you in front of the manager and said, "Give it." She stared at you until finally your head slumped down in shame and you held out your hand. And there, in your palm, sat the little die-cast fighter jet you'd shoplifted earlier, then pretended, theatrically, to discover in the backseat of our parked car. Oh man, oh my brother, your first brush with the law, my first moment of holier than thou. After that, all I had to do was point at any kind of plane, and you would hang your head and extend your open hand, and we'd laugh until one day I pointed to the sky, and you just looked at me before turning away. So, hanging up my coat after seeing you like that on my couch, I smiled, even after I understood I had it wrong. I felt it, the smile, smeared on my face like a greasy stain. The curtains had come up, both of us, stilled all the way through, like at a good beginning of anything. And the last thing I'm going to read is the elegy. At the end of the chapbook, anytime I get a chance to say my friend's name, I like to, so I'm going to read this and then I'll finish. It's called After Wildlife, for Shandor Benzetti. Whenever I hear someone say, "To the color and the light," I see you sitting on our couch, a needle still hanging from your arm. And first I think of a photograph you gave me of yourself, pushing your son on a swing set in a crowded park, your hair swept back beneath a black bandana. And then I recall the tame deer we once fed in another park, not far from there, found on a black patch of dirt, shot with an arrow, and decapitated for his antlers. Like you, the deer would be discovered with what claimed him stuck inside, guilty of a weight in velvet growing on his head. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Macurio, and I'm going to be reading from my chapbook Doll, published by Lily Poetry Review Books, and I'm really pleased with it. Camille Claudel at the museum in Paris. Her face pale in a dark dress, sculptor hands idle in her lap. Sculptor hands with no clay to tempt them. The delicate girl her hands made. She caressed and caressed to make a girl, whose face I long to touch, whose face reminds me. Her mother denied her release, the mother who never kissed her. 30 years in an asylum. Camille, whose face I long to touch, her gaze my own. Nights of Angels. They escape convent walls, a blizzard of angels, little girls in white nightgowns. They race across the frostbit ground, filthy feet and fragile wings. By day they are put away beneath stained glass windows. Small hands, no mothers to warm them. Unholy sisters pass down a catechism of loveless mothers to daughters. At 18, they escape into watercolor light, the cold pink breath of Sunday morning. Doll. She sighs when I take her out, the same dumb doll who bleeds for me. She has one blue eye, the other is a hole. Nothing is good about her. She is disfigured, her plastic limbs scoured clean with an IV line. She doesn't like me. She says terrible things. I feed her just the same. When she is done, I carry her back to the boneyard where the moon glitters in her guise of white. Her surface is darkness. I am not alone. A woman is here. She is blonde like me, strong as hell, Miss World, misunderstood. Her arm says, let it bleed. Together we scream. Together we bury that fucking doll every single time. Stay. The lilies in the greenhouse shiver, wither in dim light. It is raining. You drink your root beer, hope to keep it down. Put the guitar away. You're done with it. It's too late for a love letter, but you write one anyway. You load the shotgun, prepare the heroin one last time. Lay your wallet on the floor, stab a pen through the note into a pot of soil. In the morning, fresh lilies will arrive in the breath of first light. I'm gonna, and that was from Doll. I'm gonna finish with 2 new poems, Words in a Nightjar. I pray to the dwindling fire, take my tea with cream and grief. How cold my cheeks still are, how round the snow thrush on the back deck. I remember the sticky-faced child who always took too much jam. She's still here with me. I broke, then remade her. The sparrow is here too, outside the kitchen window. He visits me with wings dipped sweet in wild air. My final poem, Punk Rock Aphrodite. The client fights his gag, begs me to stop. He's forgotten his word, the one he chose. I never had a word. His agony blooms and sweetens like a 4 o'clock flower, another afternoon of violence, more cries of never enough. The tree outside my window leans left, shaped by the wind of a ruined city. I lie flat on my bed, a paper doll crafted by others. But now my body is my own. I can do whatever I like with it. On stage, I bare my breasts, surf the crowd, they tear my dress and bruise my legs. After the show, I lean on his shoulder. We share cold beer and cigarettes. He touches my cheek and reminds me of how tender hands can be. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Clarissa Adkins. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I've been writing poetry since I was about 14. I'm really excited to have my first poetry book published with Lily Poetry Review Books. It's called Building Alexandria. And my first poem is a reopening. The farmhouse table is abiding oblivious in the overgrown forest. The oak legs dig into dirt with the girth of Easter dinner. Roots lace and goose between the stripes and linens. Porcelain platters of carrot cake indulge the flour-wet dust. Bugs petrify in tunnels nibbled into pastel eggs, caves of long-lost covenants. The guests are sitting statuesque, while inside they've succumbed to disease. Their hope dwelled in the ham, congealed now, while folded hands wove fingers into rotting steeples. At the ever Easter table, the earth refines them between tooth-thinned trees. And this is the longest of the 4 that I'm going to read, kind of put it in the middle. They don't want to get this. This high-rise apartment building hasn't had a manager in the lobby since 1979. The last handler left his plastic snake plants bleaching olive beside semi-gloss commissary paint, back when the building was at its most alive. Shows from RCAs and Philcos captured pictures of day-to-day life and displayed them, legs and skin, onto the building's drywall. The actors weren't always naked, but became so even when clothed. And residents on any floor sensed the actors' lack of pants by the method of their walking past the doors on floor 9. Floor 9 had leftover soap from jellyfish-colored bubbles blown off the astro-turfed balcony at the top of Annandale, where purple Matchbox Pontiacs shot through a paper towel tube, rushed tenants far away from the building, at least to balloon's length, clean through to junipers and sages, hues not used once anywhere in the entire building space. Level 7 had a trash compactor that was friends, perhaps, with the elevators, and seemed to glow a temper like roasted tomatoes, with its inner walls caramelizing garbage on the way to the basement, and sometimes made more pleasant by stripes of hard peppermint suckers. Hundreds of Sunday dinners of Korean and Italian garlics commixing with warm detergent from level 1's laundromat couldn't block the dumpster's dirty banana diaper reek from baking fire red film into the elevator doors. Except for a couple of years, janitors wiped back the beige. And the 3 elevators were like the thick hand that blindly pawed for candy from a bowl, but the bowl was actually a brown clutch from the pawn shop, and the quarters and jaons were the bribes, and the hands, those hands, were the hands. All right. This one's called Progression. The children have the entire pool to themselves, while I have the sidewalk deck around it and the music, which remind me of how we do nothing together, and is plain like a water horizon easing toward the white and blue ceramic lines of tile, like depth perception in sound, and the shifty melody and the lifeguards controlling the outdoor speakers, the sounds which I swish with my toe tap count, like I count the tile's grout divisions, which match the pattern of the sun's on-water shimmer, which match the slow, concave, convex whipping of the stripes on the umbrella. And me, I'm like a drowning woman, and I'm becoming warm still, despite the shadow of the nylon shell and the summer wind, turning us down, like the aqua tone of turquoise if it were chipped from the tile patterns, or from a fluid canvas wavering in measures. And my last poem, this is the shortest one, I think. And this one's called Experiment of a Woman as a Paper Cutout. Where they dissect you, where the incision begins in the story of you, when in retrospect your eyes inspected the hatches across your scalpeled skin. Part a thing, a sketch, a someone else, musing about yourself. When you propped near a purple myrtle's disjointed limb, considering petals, not fair. When after committed with workable fixative, you stood on the sidewalk, your ideas of balloons and animals drawn into life, held there as you are in your story, almost unbelievable, just large as life, a fair, fairly believable maiden. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Vamproyen, and I am reading today from San Antonio, Texas, where I live. This is the book that Lily Poetry Review Books put out, Frances of the Wider Field, and I'm delighted to read a few poems from it today. Because this is called Frances of the Wider Field, I often get a question of who is Frances, and my reply has become this poem, which is a little bit more like, what is Frances? This is called Location Frances. When I say Frances, I mean the maple trunk bulging through chain link. I mean the pit bull with spiked collar who lives on the other side. I say Frances and I sound like a leaking bike tire. Frances, my purple Schwinn, my flowered banana seat, my legs pumping through the subdivision that springs from the field. Frances rides on the air. You might say, I don't understand. And I'd say, this is not my voice. It's something in the leaves that keeps speaking. Something that saw me as a child, rubbed a coin on the sole of my foot. When I say Frances, I mean a woman. I mean a place. The dead cling to the land. The living cling to a story that, like currency, changes hands. Frances of the Cadillac. Under her tongue, there was a story. In her mouth, nails. Frances hammered license plates to the back wall of her garage. There hang the years that sunk like a foot in loose soil, that rusted like a hinge. Whose hand or what machine etched the numbers that cruised along in the exhaust of a town that no longer exists? This is what happens when I check my wristwatch. Frances drives her leather-top Cadillac between the electrical signals of my brain. There's a railroad crossing, and I don't understand the way she's looking at me. Her body tells me something happened. Her arms so thin, veins show when she rolls up her sleeves. Still, if I were drowning, I know Frances would save me. She might throw a string of black pearls. She might offer a broom handle worn from her sweeping. She'd pull me to the edge, push pennies from my lungs, but it's the bells of the crossing that make it hard to breathe. So I know that there's probably a listener or two who's had to be separated from people they love in this last year or so. It's particularly hard to be away from people I love. And this is called Elegy for My Mother's Mind. So hard to be away from people who you love, who especially are going through things. We're walking inside your mind where it's beginning to snow. And no matter how quickly I shovel, the path will go blank. Where you'll lose the child who picked every last tulip you waited a solid Chicago winter to watch bloom. Lose the girl who pedaled her Schwinn up and back the driveway while you fried bacon behind the evergreens in an electric pan so the house wouldn't smell. But this night, grackles above us blacken the tree, and you hold on to me as you get into the car. Together, we go to the store where you try on every clearance marked blouse and buy nothing. You're forgetting sadness too, that pool where you used to swim with an armload of bricks, where no slow tug of a rope could pull you from the bottom. You're forgetting about anyone but you, when before dawn on the piano you pound great balls of fire and the old rugged cross and whistle in searing vibrato. You give dollar store Kleenex, pour as gifts, pour bean into wine bottles and lift my chin and say, I'm so glad you were born. Then your pupils widen and tunnel back to before I was here, before my brothers or sister, before you lost your father, a time of buses and rain, of radio static, and for a minute, you're far from me, so I reach for your trembling hand. And this final poem, it's in the same vein about being away, and I had fantasies as a child of having an identical twin, and here's how it sort of played out with my current wishes. So thank you for being such a generous audience, for showing up, and I'm going to close out with this. It's called Split. Mother, I wish I could twin myself and tuck you into your blanket cocoon. You say the cold eats at your bones, and I know because last time I heard crumbling marrow roll through you like rain. Mother, there are feathers stuck in my throat. I wish for a twin with telepathic lips against your good ear. Let her relay that yesterday, a swarm of cedar waxwings picked clean your daughter's ligustrum of fruit. The daughter who moved to warmer climes because you said, remember, everything would be okay. Let this more beautiful child help you find the perfect tilt, suspend your legs, undo gravity's pressure. I made sure she knows your fleece throw should fold under your feet, that your worn pillow is to cradle your head, and it's your left ear to which she should bend when she says, your faraway daughter sends love from her new green yard. Her voice chimes like mine, but may sound sweeter as it swirls into your inner ear. Mother, don't let her vibrations fool you if through thin cochlear fluid you hear, I am the girl who loves you best. My twin is prone to lie, even as she leans, her silken hair glancing your eyes. The laws are different here. From 1,200 miles away, I duplicate, I splinter, I fly. Mother, I float to your ceiling, drift over your body, my heart once beat in, where as a dark cluster of cells, I began furiously to split. Thank you all. Thank you to the organizers of the BOOG City Festival, and most of all, thank you to everyone who is tuned in to hear us. We appreciate